The Seminoles are adding to their transfer portal additions, this time on the defensive side of the ball, now under Tony White, Florida State's new defensive coordinator. And more specifically, we're headed into the linebacker room, now coached by John Papuchis, as previously he was coaching the defensive ends and still is going to be coaching the special teams moving forward. But the Seminoles now landing a linebacker that I think has a chance to develop and be a key player in the years to come in the linebacker room if developed well. Florida State bringing in UNC Tar Heel linebacker transfer Caleb LaVallee. He has visited Florida State this week. He decided to go ahead and end his recruitment and pick the Florida State Seminoles. I don't think this one was too much of a shock just because of the relationships that Florida State had previously. What does Caleb bring to this defense? Well, Florida State does need some guys in the room that have a couple of years of eligibility remaining. And this time, LaVallee brings 3 seasons with him. He's 6'1", 225 pounds. He's from the state of Georgia. He was rated as a 3-star prospect by 247 Sports. And he came into North Carolina in the 2022 recruiting class. He attended 2 visits to Florida State during his recruitment process back then, including a junior day in January and a visit in April before the spring game. Not a lot of playing time, though. He sat back as reserve for the most part for the Tar Heels defense. We go and, I think talked about the most as the most recent bowl game that he played in. He played in 12 games in 2024, primarily as a reserve player. He started in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl and the loss to UConn, where he had a standout performance of 9 tackles, 6 solos, and 1 tackle for loss. His career stats at North Carolina: 16 games played, 14 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 blocked punt. So going to the stat sheet, not a ton of experience here, but the Florida State Seminoles and Mike Norvell were heavily after him during his recruitment. They felt like they were in a really good spot, and sure enough, they definitely were, because now after ending the transfer portal, they get one of his first visits, and he goes ahead and locks it down and is going to stay in Tallahassee. But, Florida State needs help in the linebacker room. Is he going to play a pivotal role right off the bat? No, I don't believe so. But is it someone that they feel like they can work with and develop to be a key starter moving forward? I do think so. He's a guy that brings pressure. He's got a lot of urgency in the way that he goes and reads the run. And I just kind of like the attack mode that he plays with. Didn't get to see a lot of it on film. You really can only go back to his high school film. But in that last game that we saw in the bowl game, there's definitely some things that you could take away and say, okay, if Florida State, John Papuchis, if they can work with him and develop him, and also, too, you got to think Tony White is going to be very hands-on in the linebacker room. Just that's where he works almost the best there. As he's going to take on the defensive coordinator role, but he is going to be very hands-on in at that second level of Florida State's new defense. But they need to have help here. They need to get guys that they can develop on their own and not have to rely on these 1 year or these guys coming through the transfer portal to be immediate factors. They would like to have some dudes that they can develop. I mean, Florida State is bringing back Omar Graham Jr., someone that I think saw a lot of growth in the latter half of the 2024 season. I'm excited to see what it looks like under Tony White's defense. I was kind of shocked that he was intending on entering the transfer portal. I thought, that wouldn't last. I was worried a little bit if Florida State was what they're going to do in the linebacker room. At that point, it was very, very thin, because you also had a handful of other guys entered the portal due to attrition. You're bringing back Blake Nicholson as well, too. He's a projected guy to be a starter in this 2025 defense. Also, too, you've got Justin Cryer, who I think, if he can come back fully healthy, plays a pivotal role in Florida State's defense. Just was one of the Florida State's best playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. We just got to see his recovery, and interested to see how that looks when we get into the spring. And then Florida State has a few other guys too. Jaden Parrish, who's a redshirt freshman. Tamir Hickman Collins as well as a redshirt freshman. And then they also got some guys in the early signing period and also through the transfer portal. Ethan Pritchard as a 3-star linebacker, and then Stephon Thompson with ties to Tony White going all the way back to his days at Syracuse. He then followed him to Nebraska, and now from Nebraska over to Tallahassee. But Florida State, trying to build up some depth here. I think they need that in the linebacker room. And I know the stat sheets, we've been talking a lot of these videos of guys that are productive and some stats that look very nice. And of course, there's also some other guys out there that Florida State is most certainly after, which are having visits as we speak. But this addition right here, I think, is something that Florida State would like to have in their stable and are going to continue to look around as much as possible before Florida State ends off the signing day in early February, and also too in what they want to do in the transfer portal. So I think a solid addition, immediate impact, no, but if you can develop him nicely, I think there's a lot of things that he brings to the table that you feel pretty optimistic about that you can work with moving forward in this new Tony White defense. And I think too, as fans, people that are covering the team like me, we're going to have to find out which guys Tony White likes the most. We can name some guys that we project to be starters. I just named Blake Nicholson as a projected starter. I can say that now, but it's not going to mean anything until we start seeing practices. We see spring camp and see who he thinks personally, which personnel fits his scheme the best. So it's a fun thing to go through, and who knows, they might see a lot and Caleb, and they feel like that he can grow into being a guy that can be in that rotational side of things in this 2025 season. We'll see. But let me know down in the comments what you think about this pickup for Florida State. Also, too, feel free to hit the like button. Definitely would appreciate it. And make sure to hit that subscribe button, too. Got tons of videos of updates all around Florida State football and what they're doing in the transfer portal and on the recruiting side, and breaking news left and right. So thanks for watching.